Azure Cosmos DB, questions and answers. 56. Question, can a partition key be a composite of multiple attributes? Answer, no, a partition key is a single JSON property name. 57. Question, what types of client libraries support change feed? Answer, change feed is supported in .NET, Java, Python, and Node.js SDKs. 58. Question, is it possible to get historical changes from change feed? Answer, change feed supports reading changes from a specific point in time but does not retain data indefinitely for historical changes. 59. Question, how does Azure Cosmos DB integrate with Azure Event Grid? Answer, Azure Event Grid can be configured to react to specific events occurring in Azure Cosmos DB, such as the creation or deletion of items. 60. Question, can you integrate Azure Cosmos DB with Power BI for reporting? Answer, yes. Azure Cosmos DB can be integrated with Power BI using the native Cosmos DB connector or API for data visualization and reporting. 61. Question, how is data consistency maintained in globally distributed databases in Azure Cosmos DB? Answer, Azure Cosmos DB provides 5 consistency models: strong, bounded staleness, session, consistent prefix, and eventual, to maintain data consistency across globally distributed databases. 62. Question, is it possible to set up IP firewall rules at the database level in Azure Cosmos DB? Answer, no. IP firewall rules in Azure Cosmos DB are set up at the account level, not at the database level. 63. Question, how do you enable or disable automatic indexing on a collection? Answer, automatic indexing can be enabled or disabled through the Azure portal or programmatically using SDKs by modifying the indexing policy. 64. Question, what are user-defined functions, UDFs, in the context of a collection? Answer, UDFs are custom JavaScript functions that can be used in SQL queries executed against a collection in Azure Cosmos DB. 65. Question, how does Azure Cosmos DB enforce data isolation at the container level? Answer, each container in Azure Cosmos DB is a distinct schema-agnostic entity, thereby isolating data at the container level for different workloads. 66. Question, can you have multiple partition keys in a single container? Answer, no, a single container can only have one partition key. 67. Question, what is the role of a partition key range in data distribution? Answer, a partition key range is a contiguous range of partition key hash values used internally for data distribution across physical partitions. 68. Question, how is throughput allocated to partitions? Answer, throughput in Azure Cosmos DB is allocated at the container level and is then distributed among partitions based on the workload. 69. Question, what are the primary use cases for change feed in Azure Cosmos DB? Answer, change feed is commonly used for scenarios such as data movement, caching, search indexing, real-time analytics, and triggers for Azure Functions. 70. Question, how do you control the amount of data read from change feed? Answer, you can control the volume of data read from change feed by setting the max item count property when initializing the change feed processor. 71. Question, is it possible to integrate Azure Cosmos DB with Azure Logic Apps? Answer, yes. Azure Cosmos DB can be integrated with Azure Logic Apps for workflow automation using built-in connectors. 72. Question, can Azure Cosmos DB be queried using GraphQL? Answer, while Azure Cosmos DB does not natively support GraphQL, you can build a GraphQL API layer over it for querying. 73. Question, how can you restore a deleted database in Azure Cosmos DB? Answer, Azure Cosmos DB provides point-in-time restore capabilities to restore deleted databases to a previous state within a configurable retention period. 74. Question: is there a maximum limit for stored procedures per database? Answer: there is no explicit limit on the number of stored procedures per database, but they share resources with other entities like collections and triggers. 75. Question: what types of indexing are available in a collection? Answer: Azure Cosmos DB offers single field and composite indexing to optimize query performance within a collection. 76. Question: how is RU/S, request units per second, calculated for a collection? Answer: RU/S is calculated based on the resources required to execute a query or operation, including CPU, memory, and I/O. 77. Question: can you create a unique index constraint within a container after it's been created? Answer: no. Unique index constraints must be defined when a container is created. 78. Question: what is the importance of the _e tag property in a container? Answer: the _e tag property is used for optimistic concurrency control to ensure that parallel operations do not conflict. 79. Question: what happens when a partition in Azure Cosmos DB reaches its storage limit? Answer: when a partition reaches its storage limit, Azure Cosmos DB automatically triggers a split operation to divide the partition into smaller ranges. 80. Question: is it possible to change the partition key of an existing container? Answer: no. Once a partition key is defined for a container, it cannot be changed. 81. Question: can you use change feed to replicate data between two Azure Cosmos DB accounts? Answer: yes. Change feed can be used to replicate data between Azure Cosmos DB accounts by reading from one account and writing to another. 82. Question: does change feed guarantee the order of events? Answer: yes. Change feed maintains the order of events within each logical partition, ensuring they are processed in the order they were written. 83. Question: how does Azure Cosmos DB integrate with Azure Databricks? Answer: Azure Cosmos DB can be integrated with Azure Databricks using the native Cosmos DB Spark connector for big data analytics. 84. Question: what data migration options are available for Azure Cosmos DB? Answer: data can be migrated to Azure Cosmos DB using the Azure Cosmos DB data migration tool, or through bulk import capabilities using SDKs. 85. Question: can you use Azure Active Directory, Azure AD, for authentication in Azure Cosmos DB? Answer: yes. Azure Cosmos DB supports Azure AD-based authentication as an alternative to key-based authentication. 86. Question: what is automatic failover in the context of Azure Cosmos DB databases? Answer: automatic failover enables Azure Cosmos DB to automatically switch to a secondary region for read and write operations if the primary region is unavailable. 87. Question: what is a logical partition in an Azure Cosmos DB collection? Answer: a logical partition is a set of items in a collection that share the same partition key value, and it serves as a unit of throughput and storage. 88. Question: can you use Azure Monitor to track metrics specific to a collection? Answer: yes. Azure Monitor can be configured to track metrics like request rates, storage, and latency at the collection level. 89. Question: what types of triggers can you implement in a Cosmos DB container? Answer: you can implement pre-triggers and post-triggers, which execute custom logic before or after an operation on items within a container, respectively. 90. Question: is geofencing supported at the container level in Azure Cosmos DB? Answer: no. Geofencing features are applied at the Azure Cosmos DB account level and not at the container level. 91. Question: can you manually control the physical partitions in Azure Cosmos DB? Answer: no. The management of physical partitions is handled automatically by Azure Cosmos DB. 92. Question: how is data migrated when a partition is split? Answer: when a partition is split, Azure Cosmos DB automatically redistributes the data across new physical partitions, without affecting the availability or performance of the database. 93. Question: can you pause and resume change feed processing? Answer: while Azure Cosmos DB doesn't provide native pause/resume functionality, you can stop the change feed processor and later restart it from the last checkpoint. 94. Question: is filtering supported in change feed? Answer: as of the latest update, change feed does not support native filtering. However, you can implement filtering logic in your application code. 95. Question: can you integrate Azure Cosmos DB with Azure Synapse Analytics? Answer: yes. Azure Cosmos DB can be directly integrated with Azure Synapse Analytics for real-time analytics capabilities. 96. Question: how can Azure Functions be triggered by Azure Cosmos DB? Answer: Azure Functions can be triggered by changes in Azure Cosmos DB using the Cosmos DB trigger, which listens to the change feed. 97. Question: can you set a time to live (TTL) at the database level in Azure Cosmos DB? Answer: no. TTL settings in Azure Cosmos DB are configured at the container or item level, not at the database level. 98. Question: is multi-master application supported in Azure Cosmos DB? Answer: yes. Azure Cosmos DB supports multi-master application to enable multiple write regions, thereby increasing availability and reducing latency. 99. Question: how do you perform bulk operations in a collection in Azure Cosmos DB? Answer: bulk operations can be performed using the Bulk Execution API in SDKs, allowing you to import, update, and delete large sets of data efficiently. 100. Question: can you enforce schema validation rules on a collection? Answer: Azure Cosmos DB is schema agnostic and does not natively provide schema validation. However, you can implement schema validation logic within your application. 101. Question: what are the 5 consistency models offered by Azure Cosmos DB? Answer: Azure Cosmos DB offers 5 consistency models: strong, bounded staleness, session, consistent prefix, and eventual. 102. Question: what is strong consistency in the context of Azure Cosmos DB? Answer: strong consistency ensures that a read operation always returns the most recent committed version of an item. It offers linearizability, which is the highest level of consistency. 103. Question: how does eventual consistency differ from strong consistency? Answer: in eventual consistency, there's no guarantee that a read operation will return the most recent version of an item, but eventually, all replicas will converge to the same state. 104. Question: can you change the default consistency level of an Azure Cosmos DB account after it has been created? Answer: yes. The default consistency level of an Azure Cosmos DB account can be changed after its creation using the Azure Portal, SDKs, or RESTful API. 105. Question: what is session consistency useful for? Answer: session consistency is useful for scenarios where data consistency is required within the scope of a single user session, ensuring read your own writes guarantees. 106. Question: what is the concept of consistent prefix? Answer: consistent prefix ensures that reads never see out of order writes, meaning that if writes occurred in a specific sequence, then reads will observe them in the same sequence. 107. Question: how does bounded staleness consistency work? Answer: Bounded staleness guarantees that reads may lag behind writes by a specific interval or a particular number of versions, offering a balance between consistency and performance. 108. Question: can you set consistency levels at query granularity? Answer: yes. You can override the default consistency level of an Azure Cosmos DB account for a particular query or read operation by specifying it at request level. 109. Question: how do consistency levels affect throughput and latency? Answer: stronger consistency levels like strong and bounded staleness generally require more resources and may increase latency, whereas eventual and session consistency tend to offer better performance. 110. Question: what happens when a consistency level cannot be maintained due to network partitioning or other issues? Answer: in such cases, Azure Cosmos DB prioritizes availability over consistency, according to the CAP theorem, until the network issues are resolved. Thanks for watching.